Modernism. Evolution of American architecture. As the United States rises from the horse and carriage and steps into an automobile, the country sews a silver lining unto itself as the industrial age is set into motion. As the nation's pace is set to overdrive, the ideals of America change towards a sophisticated future and a modern architectural advancement that parallels the technological progress made. During this boon of monetary gain, two artistic styles are born: Art Nouveau and Art Deco, with Art Deco growing into adolescence as the Great Depression takes hold. Out of these two powerful artistic forms, two great architectural buildings are created: the New York Evening Post Building and the American Radiator Building. The Evening Post Building was built in 1907 by architect Robert Cohn. It is located at 20 Vesey Street, New York, New York. It is a 14-story building that is comprised of a steel frame structure and veneered with limestone. The Evening Post Building was done in the Art Nouveau style, and in general appearance, its ornament, windows, and copper roof are more continental than American and are reminiscent of the boulevards of Paris, according to the Neighborhood Preservation Center. Two of the four massive sculptures that grace the front of the building are the work of Gutzon Borglum, the man who created the famous Abraham Lincoln bust, carved the bust of Robert E. Lee on Stone Mountain, and is credited with the design and sculpture of Mount Rushmore. The Landmarks Preservation Commission finds that the Evening Post Building is one of the few outstanding Art Nouveau-style buildings ever constructed in this country and cost roughly $500,000. The American Radiator Building was built in 1923-24 by architect Raymond Hood. It is located at 40 West and 40th Street, New York, New York. It is a 23-story building that is comprised of a steel frame structure and veneered with black brick. The American Radiator Building was done in the Art Deco style. The Art Deco style, as described by the architects of the Capitol, was inspired by Egyptian and Aztec forms and was characterized by the use of highly stylized geometric forms. The architect of the Evening Post Building was Robert D. Cohn. Cohn was born in New York in the year 1870. He was a student at City College from 1884 to 1886. Then Cohn enrolled at the University of Columbia, where in 1890 he received a Bachelor of Philosophy in Architecture. After Columbia, the American Institute of Technology notes that Cohn went to Paris and attended the École des Beaux-Arts from 1891 to 1895. Robert Cohn designed the Evening Post Building in the Art Nouveau style. The Art Nouveau movement was first showcased at the World's Fair of 1900 in Paris, with the first example of Art Nouveau architecture being the Tassel House, designed by Victor Horta in 1893. Art Nouveau was described by the National Gallery of Art as a concerted attempt to create an international style based on decoration. The Evening Post Building is special in regards to design because, as the Neighborhood Preservation Center states, even though it was Art Nouveau in style, it is not recreated from any previous structure. The New York Times Tribune called the Evening Post Building an imposing structure. The architect of the American Radiator Building was Raymond M. Hood. Hood was born in 1881 in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. He attended MIT under Desiree Desperaldes' tutelage, and after graduating in 1903, went on to study at the École des Beaux-Arts in Paris. Raymond Hood designed the Radiator Building in the Art Deco style. In Bryn Mawr College's History of American Art Deco, the Art Deco style conveyed both beauty and strength in a time when economic depression left much of the country unemployed and embittered. Throughout this time and into the 1930s, Art Deco was the driving force in architecture, and as Bryn Mawr College points out, was exuding nationalism through massive structures with great coloring, inspiring murals, and strong sculpture reminiscent of Roman republicanism. In 1925, France held the Le Musée des Arts Décoratifs, where it is rumored that the term Art Deco came to be recognized. Bryn Mawr College claims the exposition was meant to be a display of Nouveau design from around the world, but U.S. Secretary of Commerce Herbert Hoover declared Americans off limits from entering, as he felt no contemporary architecture was new enough. Instead, Hoover sent experts to learn and adapt the exposition designs to American architectural expression. Art Deco was not labeled as a separate category from modernism until 1966 retrospective on the 1925 exposition. The Radiator Building was Raymond Hood's last design to be done in the Art Deco style, as the handcrafted details needed to create Art Deco could not be afforded and was to be viewed as too extravagant for the increasing masses of poor New Yorkers, as concluded by William Luther of the University of Florida. Raymond Hood was awarded the commission of the American Radiator Building after gaining much prominence in winning the Chicago Tribune Tower competition in 1922. The competition received 260 designs from all around the world, making it considered by the Art Institute of Chicago an important international forum for attitudes about the prevailing aesthetic of the tall office building. Not everyone was so impressed by Hood's accomplishments. As controversy and public outcries of cheating, John Mead Howells and Raymond M. Hood's friends of the competition judges stole the prize with their notably safe entry. The competition's failure was described by Louis Sullivan in 1923 as a demotion to the level of those works of dying ideas, as found by Ohio State University. During this era of U.S. history, wealth and extravagance led the way for a uniquely American Art Nouveau movement. As the patronage of an outstanding generation of industrialists and financiers led to the creation of public museums, libraries, and grand private mansions, as written by the National Gallery of Art. With this influx of wealth and an abundance of skilled tradesmen, Art Nouveau architecture flourished, mirroring the opulent desires of our powerful nation in an era of excess and insatiable hunger for work of art in every aspect of life. The Evening Post building fulfills the wants of a nation in what was called the Roaring Twenties. In the early 20th century New York, space was becoming more and more elusive for the current architect. So Raymond Hood created his buildings with human function in mind, and as William Lethord states, allowing every space access to light and ventilation. The American Radiator Building had as much as 90% of the living space within 25 feet of natural light, something previous skyscrapers had lacked greatly. In another credit by Luther to Hood and the Radiator Building, one corner of the structure had no access to light and ventilation because a building was located there. So Hood located the stair tower in that corner, placing a utilitarian function in a utilitarian space. Raymond Hood had a vision of New York, one that it would be full of color and turn away from the drab monotones of the present architecture. Hood said, "We feel that the old problem in office building design demanded a new solution, and that just as other architects have broken away from conventional treatment in certain directions and raised the standards to higher levels, we might contribute a new plan of coloring which would make for progress." As Luther proposed, the Radiator Building is unique in Hood's designs as the building is devoid of color, solid black with gold leaf trim.